Welcome to the Videography University podcast. This is the podcast to listen to if you have ambitions of turning your videography business into a six-figure income and full-time career. On this show, you'll learn the business tips and strategies to help you book more higher-paying clients for your videography business, all from professionals who have scaled their videography businesses to over six figures. I'm your host, Grant Burks, the founder of Videography University, the author of a book called Film to Freedom, and the CEO of Optico Productions, a video production company that I took from a part-time side income into a six-figure income and full-time career. In this podcast, we'll break down all the strategies that'll allow you to go full-time with your videography business. Let's jump into today's episode. Today I'm very lucky to have the guest who so graciously is providing the space as well. Steve, sorry, your last name one more time.
Muza.
Steve Muza. Steve has been in the business for quite some time now, and he probably wouldn't say it himself, but I will say it for him, has been very successful. Somebody that I aspire to reach the levels of in my career as well someday. So really lucky to get to pick Steve's brain today and to hope that there's a lot of information that you all will find beneficial as we do so. So first, Steve, would love to just get to hear a little bit of your background, how you got started in videography.
Hopefully you still feel all those things after hearing all about how the sausage was made. So my background is I started kind of in photo back in college at Ohio State. I just wanted to get press passes to the football games and basketball games, so I learned how to pick up a camera and take some photos. And after that, I had to travel around for work around the country. My girlfriend at the time, she traveled with me. She was also into photography, and she kind of would just shadow different photographers every different city we lived in.
And what were you doing for work?
So my work at the time, I was a project foreman for golf course construction. So we would move literally every 3 months. We'd be on a project for 3 months, get the bulk of it done. Okay. And then I would move to another project somewhere, whether it was Chicago, Nashville, Dallas, San Antonio. I was all over the place there. And as we moved around, she shadowed these photographers, and I eventually went back to grad school for architecture. And at that time is when we started Little Tree Studios, and that was like 15 years ago now. So it's been a while. Started off in photo, and all this time I'm helping her out and also starting to develop kind of my own skills, and my interests were in video. Mm-hmm. So around that time, like 2008, we started to get those cameras that, like the DSLRs that could also shoot video. And I just picked them up and started shooting some stuff for some of our neighboring businesses in Worthington, just for some friends and family. And, like a lot of us, once you start doing that, opportunities arise. And so that's kind of how we got into video. Like, that's the very broad story.
Okay. But couple questions I have off of that right there. So first, when you really started your business, were you working on the side? Were you doing that on the side as well while you worked full time?
Yeah, so that was on the side. So, like I said, we really started Little Tree Studios even back when I was doing the construction gig, and it just it was always kind of, hey, we're gonna pick up a little wedding here, and it started with weddings.
Same.
And then we were able to, I went to grad school. I got some student loans, which I also got a full-time TA position, which was really helpful. And so we were kind of just using that as this is enough to live and have a place to live and feed ourselves. Mm-hmm. So let's see what we can do with this photography business. And so we kind of stretched ourselves on that while I was in grad school. And Kyle, she was actually working at a hospital as a lab tech. And so we sort of just figured out, okay, we're going to make this work. We're going to stretch ourselves. We're going to put everything we make from the business back into the business at that time. And so we even opened up a small little retail studio in Old Worthington and did a lot of portraits during the week. We would say, okay, we're going to open our doors at 4 p.m. till
So once you get
PM.
Off work?
Yeah, pretty much once you get off work. And we're going to make that happen. Or we're going to be available and open on the weekends. And so we started to kind of build an audience, and we got a lot of clients that way from just being in Old Worthington. And it's kind of crazy. One day we had a wedding because, like I said, we started in photo. I really wanted to make a wedding video. Always wanted to do it. I had watched really incredible filmmakers, especially from Canada. And I was like, I think I can do kind of what they're doing.
Who were some of those filmmakers?
So still motion.
Okay, so I'm not familiar.
Yeah, so still motion is just like, back in the day was a group out of like Toronto. And then they moved to Portland, Oregon. But they were incredible. They were kind of like the new trend of, this is a new trend way back when, of incorporating, they would like incorporate the audio from the vows in the story and put it to like really cinematic music and tell it in visually interesting ways, not just like a man with a camera walking around filming everything. And so I was like, I think I want to try that style. And we asked one of our wedding photography clients, like, hey, do you mind if instead of having a second photographer, we just like try to make you a wedding video? And this wedding just so happened to be a really cool couple who had spent a few years in Japan, living in Japan, back when there was an earthquake and a tsunami and the whole like nuclear meltdown out there. And so they incorporated that into their vows. And it was just such a unique and interesting aspect. And we used those vows in this short little like 3-minute highlight film we made of them, which had a lot of like more, you take that photographer's eye and apply it to video, which was a little newer at that time. And we're talking like 2009, 2010. And it like took off, like got tons of views.
Where'd you guys, did you post?
We just posted on Vimeo and Facebook
at
the time. Facebook was really big. Facebook is where a lot of people saw it. And then just so happened that one of the people who saw that was a creative director at a little marketing company in town. And I feel like they were a little bit inspired by it. And they pitched it to a big healthcare client, like a whole hospital network, as like they used some of the footage and the idea of like, hey, it's this father and their wedding and his daughter on a wedding day and being there for those moments. And they won this whole contract to shoot like new brand campaign for this hospital network. And they were like, hey, just so you know, Little Tree, we like really loved this video. We kind of like we got a lot of creative from it. We'd love to bring you on as kind of like a creative consultant for it. And love to have you kind of film behind the scenes of this whole process. And that was our first foray into commercial work, like proper, other than just doing it for a few small family and friends and local businesses. So next thing you know, we developed that relationship with that agency, and they just kept giving us, kind of trusting us more and more with bigger and bigger projects. And that's how I got into commercial work. This
is incredible. Okay, so Steve, I know Steve pretty well. I know Steve well, mm-hmm. But I didn't know all of this background into your story. So, so it was an agency that saw your video. They just saw it on Facebook, and they were so inspired by the video that they took it to a healthcare company and said, "Hey, we want to basically create some sort of campaign that's similar to this video for your company."
Yeah, and I mean, these are people, we weren't good friends with them. We had just met them, some kind of small networking thing. So, you're Facebook friends, and that's about the extent of that relationship, really. And they saw it, and then after they reached out with that opportunity, it was kind of kicked off a lot of future opportunities. And I then spent the next couple of years still in grad school doing both. I would be full-time architecture student, trying to do all that, full-time TA, and then on weekends, or also I'd just have to like miss a few classes here or there, we would do commercial projects. So I'd be gone, like, hey, I'm going to be gone Thursday and Friday. We're shooting this thing for this hospital network. And we even brought on a business, like a kind of a business partner during that time. So there's 3 of us working for the studio, primarily focused on video at the time, weddings and commercial and photo. And when I left or graduated grad school, the opportunity was either go into an architecture firm, work like 80 hours a week, for somebody else, starting at the bottom, right?
Yep.
And going along that path. Or it was, hey, this like video thing is really taken off. Like it was around 2014, 15, which were some of our best years at that point. We had now been doing it for like 7, 8 years. And we were like, I'm going to go all in on this video thing. And I think we can make it into a successful business. I mean, it's already keeping us employed. At that point, Kyle was able to quit her job. And so she was in it full time, only after a couple of years. So I just went all in on it as well. And we both just decided, okay, we're going to fully commit to this. No more safety nets. I still picked up a few odd jobs for some design work on the side, but it was primarily the video business that made us our money. So.
That's awesome. So a couple of things I want to touch on there. One thing that really stands out to me with your story is how it all stemmed from you guys. You were doing photography, wedding photography specifically, and you said, hey, I want to try out this video thing. Mm-hmm. And you made the ask. You asked the couple. You said, would it be okay if we did this? And that's really what set all the rest of your story in motion. I think a big thing there is to not be afraid to ask. If there's something that you want to do, if there's a company that you want to shoot a project for, if there's someone, maybe it's a brand or something that you want to shoot a project for, or some current client that you have and you want to try something in a new way, maybe just for your portfolio. Don't be afraid to ask the question. A lot of times we're hesitant. We think, they might say no. Oh, it's a stupid idea.
Nobody says no to free video. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's a great point right there. Nobody says no to free video. That's how I got started. I offered a free video to a dental practice because I wanted a piece for my portfolio, and that turned into what my business is today. It all scales. Yeah. So don't be afraid to ask, everyone. So,
definitely. Yeah. That's like some of the best advice is don't be afraid to ask. And just try to get your foot in the door someplace. And some places have relationships and they have their own creative and planning and marketing department. But I mean, a small enough shop will almost always take you up on your offer. And I would say be honest too with them. Don't try to hide the fact like this is your first video or your first big thing, because I think it'll give them the ability to kind of like, okay, we're not going to like build an entire marketing campaign off of this person. Yeah. We're going to try it. What do we have to lose? Let's see how it works out. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to probably over deliver because they're probably not expecting it to be that good. Because if you're passionate about it, it'll probably come out pretty nice. You might not love the final product, but I bet, the client might, because they have no idea how to do video. Yeah. So it's definitely a good way to get your feet in the door and at least like trying some things out and building a portfolio, because that's then the next step is like the work you show to potential clients is going to be the work that you end up getting. I mean, that's one lesson I've definitely learned.
That's such good advice. Definitely a mantra that I full-heartedly believe in as well. The work that you put out there and the work that you're showing to the world is the work that's going to come back to you. So if you want a certain type of project, then you need to be putting that kind of work out there. And in order to get that kind of work, you need to be willing to do it for free for first, or for, a significant discount. You're not doing the work. It's not really free work. It's an investment in your business. Doing the work for a discount or at no cost for a client at the onset.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's tricky for me to say, like, I do think you have to start off being very cheap or free, but you have to immediately then just use that as a launch board to realize your value. Like, hopefully you're getting that from your first experience shooting videos. Like, hey, I can see how they responded to it. Like, there's value in what I'm offering. So now go turn that and start saying, hey, here's the value I was able to give just using video to this client. Let me do it for you. And that's how you start to create value and charge higher and higher rates as you go forward. And it's a pretty quick pivot. You build a portfolio and you go at it. And even for us, like, there's a point in that 2016, 17 year, work started to get a little slower. And we were like, maybe the work we're putting out there isn't exactly the work we really want to get. And so recommitted, and we said, we're going to do this thing it was a crazy idea. It was like 30 stories in 30 days.
I love it.
Which is impossible to do. But we did probably 10 stories. We reached out to people and was like, hey, we're going to do this very discounted work, but you're going to get, well, it was Rooted Content then at the time, which is our commercial side of Little Tree Studios. And we were like, we're going to find people who have really good stories, and we're going to tell them how we want to tell them, you know, not through an agency or a marketing director. This is how we would tell their story. And we're going to put those out there. And that helped us kind of get into that next phase of, wow, that's the kind of work I want for my business. And it really helped us. And it was, yeah, we had to renew it. And it happened even again with the studio. It's kind of like, yeah, there's always that your growth, you're getting all those clients. And then there's maybe like the reinvention that happens. Okay, I'm seeing now we're falling into this trend, or we're seeing new trends in the industry. Let's try that out.
Yep.
So,
Steve, we are so well aligned on a lot of things here. You talked about shooting those videos and shooting them how you wanted them to be shot because you knew the end product that you were going to go for. And that's something that I talk about in my book and that I highly, highly advise to aspiring videographers, other videographers. If you're going to do work for free, you need to be the one calling the shots.
100%.
Don't work for free. If somebody comes to you and says, hey, will you do this for free? They are going to wring everything they can out of you, and you're not going to get what you want. You offer to do work for free, so you get the video that you want for the portfolio that you want.
Exactly. I mean, that is the whole wisdom of the thing is like, if you aren't doing the work that you can showcase and showing your best ability, then, I mean, odds are, like we always say, if a client gets involved, you've just lost 20% of how great it could be, pretty much.
I love that.
It's like you have this vision of what it can be. I feel like a lot of times the client has a purpose, like they have a mission to accomplish. They don't always know what the creative method to get that mission accomplished is. And so that's where your expertise comes in, and hopefully you've learned enough to then be able to go deliver on that. But if you're just doing work because somebody's telling you to do this thing, it's not going to help you in the future. You have to show like what your ability is, what is your perspective, because a lot of videos, everybody can hold a camera and shoot something. It's really what's your perspective of a video. Like what are you bringing to it? It's yourself. It's your own identity. It's your past lived experiences. It's your vision for things. It's your taste. A lot of it, I mean, it's art. It's all subjective. So you're just bringing your vision to a project. So if somebody else is kind of telling you how that vision should go, then it's not really yours, and it's not worth showcasing to other potential clients.
Yep. Absolutely. If you're not the one calling the shots, then you better be getting paid for it. So this is kind of like the order of how I recommend that people work on building their videography business. Shoot a project for free or highly discounted rate at the onset to get that portfolio piece. Build your portfolio. That's kind of the first step in the process. From there, then start advertising that product, that end video that you want to create for other clients. And then you're just going to increase your rates from there. So, sell it for, find out whatever the base price is you want to sell it for that first client, and then just start increasing your rates and increasing your rates until you find that sweet spot. Yeah. All right, Steve, before we get too deep into the weeds here, something that we talked about before we started recording here, and that I think is really important, is being able to have some transparency around what's possible when it comes to financially making money within this industry, and also just your own personal fulfillment in the lifestyle that you want to live. When I got started in videography, when I graduated from college, we both went to Ohio State, actually. When I graduated, I started at a corporate company working a 9 to 5 because I didn't know if it was possible to do this full time, to run my own videography business full time. And so I went the quote unquote safe route of getting a corporate 9 to 5 and did it on the side, and fortunately was able to get to the point where I am today. But I think that process could have been expedited had I known what's possible financially. So Steve, would love to hear what some of your biggest years within the industry, what you guys have been able to earn, and then maybe some of your larger projects as well.
Yeah. So I think some good ground numbers are, even when we first started and we weren't full-time doing video and photo, it was pretty easy to get in and start to make between $80,000 and $100,000. I think you could, if you're committed and you're doing something right, I think you should be able to start finding those numbers pretty quick. I would not say, though, that was full-time income yet, because a lot of that stuff you're reinvesting into the business. There's obviously taxes and all these costs associated with running a business. But once we got kind of churning, getting a lot of commercial accounts, and I mean, we're talking middle-sized to larger-sized corporations, you're starting to get into that realm of you can make between $150 on the low end to $500,000, I feel like, with a pretty small team. So that's definitely one of those, like, just how much are you pushing for bigger and bigger clients? But that money it's not unattainable. That's for sure. It's not going to be regular. That's the one thing I can tell you. I wish every year was a $500,000 year, but it goes up and down a lot. So I'd say on average, as a full-time videographer now, I'd say we can usually rely on about $250,000, $200,000 a year coming through.
That's amazing. And to give some perspective, my best year so far, I've been doing this full-time for it's been about 2.5, 3 years. So I'm still early.
Yeah.
I'm early in here. Once again, another reason why I'm happy to be able to pull a lot of knowledge from Steve here. But my best year so far has been right around 120. So it's possible, guys. It is. Yes. It's possible. I say in my book, it's possible and it's probable if you take the right steps to make it happen. And you got to work hard for it. It's not easy. I mean, I think we can both attest to that. It's not easy, but nothing is easy worth having in life. So.
Yeah.
And Steve is a testament to the fact that you can really do some incredible things in life if you are persistent, you stick with it, and you take the right steps to make it happen. So, Steve, I would love to go back to, I want to dive into some of these larger projects here shortly. But for those kind of just getting started, would love to dive into, what was that first threshold, maybe your first like $1,000 project that you hit and you were pumped to get that first project. And then once you started to break those thresholds, maybe the $5,000 project, first $10,000 project and above, if you could just share a little bit about those.
So going back to that marketing agency who we first got connected with, I remember them asking very early on one of our first projects, because, laying the groundwork here too, like I said, friends and family and neighboring businesses in our little like strip mall area of Old Worthington, I mean, we were excited to get like $1,000 for a project, right? It was like, oh, well, we're going to go there and just film some stuff for a couple of hours and I'll make it and it'll be cool. When we started to get into the marketing world, the very first one was pretty small. It was just like shoot a behind the scenes video of this photo shoot or this bigger commercial shoot. And I feel like we were probably in the ballpark of 6,000, which to us seemed like a lot then. We were probably only charging $3,500 for weddings at that time. So this was like, oh, we're going to go shoot this whole behind the scenes video for double that. It's crazy, right? So that was kind of cool. Then we got into the bigger scale projects with a lot more travel, a lot more logistics, a lot more deliverables, and a bigger crew. We typically had a crew of maybe 5 or 6 of us now.
Wow. Traveling,
and we'd be on the road for a couple of weeks. And we were starting to get into the more $50,000 to $60,000 project range. And those were kind of exciting to get. Like you get those calls, hey, quote out this project. We're all pretty excited about it. But it goes so quick, you don't really have that much time to just, first, you don't know if it's actually going to happen because you're really just giving a quote. But once you give that quote, stuff moved so quick. It was like, all right, we're shooting in 8 days. So you got to make travel arrangements. You got to find all the rest of the crew, make sure they're available. Yeah. So it gets pretty stressful. But that was probably the next big project that when you get to that $30,000 to $50,000 range, I was pretty excited about. I still get excited about pretty big projects like that. Honestly, for us now, as Rooted Content and with the studio, we're probably a little less in those really big project numbers, and we probably live, to be honest, more in the $6,000 to $20,000 range. And We just do a few more projects. They're smaller. There's also way less travel. We don't travel near as much as we used to. We still go on an occasional 2-week road trip for some shoots. But and those are all just the exciting ones. I'd say I don't get so excited for work as I get relieved now with a bigger team and bigger studio and more costs. And obviously further along in life, I have more costs for home. And so now it's just like, I'd rather have reliable work than like, yeah, look at that. We got this $60,000 project. And then what are you going to do for the next 2 months? Or that might be your only project for the next 2 months. So now I prefer to just like, hey, we found this relationship. They want to do a video every quarter. And those are really nice. Kind of getting somebody to commit to, hey, I want to do this video in the spring, and then we need one for the summer.
Hey, I hope you're getting a ton of value from this episode so far. In my book, Film to Freedom, I share all the strategies and tactics that helped me turn my videography business into a 6-figure income and full-time career. And I'm giving you a copy of my book for free, completely free just for listening to this podcast. Go to videography-university.com/book or click the link in the show notes to get a free copy of my book. Yep, finding those consistent clients can be a huge relief when you've got a client who you know that you're going to shoot twice a year for, that's going to be in a $10,000 project twice a year. I mean, that's awesome. And you know that it's consistent and you build those relationships, and I feel like the projects get easier and easier. I think that's something else that you could probably speak on behalf of. A lot of times people might be looking for projects. For some, a $50,000 project might seem like it's not even feasible. Yeah. But there's also a lot of costs that go into some of those larger projects. Whereas, you know, a $6,000 project, if your overhead's not much, I mean, that can be just a check straight to the bank. So that's true. Could you speak maybe on that a little bit?
Yeah. So typically on those bigger commercial projects, we probably are looking at a 40 to 50% profit margin on those. Obviously every project differs, but yeah, I definitely think we take some small projects, and one of the reasons we built out this studio is to have this ability of like, hey, it's a lot easier if somebody just comes here, sits down into a pre-built podcast room or goes into a pre-equipped studio, and all we got to do is set up a camera and turn on the light switch and it's going to look good. Yep. That makes it a lot more economical for us to do lower budget shoots, where when you're like constantly having to bring on crew and make sure they're all taken care of, and or there's travel accommodations, those things add up pretty quick, and they'll chew into those bigger budgets, which is one of the reasons those budgets can be so large, right? Imagine taking a crew of at least 5 plus probably more than that people around for 2 weeks, having to stay at hotels every night. That adds up. But at the same time, those clients are definitely booking you because of your vision and they're bringing you on because you're a specialist in what you do, and they like the way that you do it. So that's still the key. Just like we were saying before, you got to bring your vision to it and find how to like curate your vision to really get the max appeal in whatever niche you want to go into.
Awesome. So something that I want to talk a lot about on this podcast is I feel like a lot of videographers, especially those starting out, struggle with, okay, where am I going to find that next client? And a lot of it becomes just waiting for clients to come to them via word of mouth, or maybe submitting that contact form on the website. That's maybe not happening for them at all. So would love to hear about your guys' process for finding new clients, what your outbound process looks like, if you guys have one, inbound, how you nurture past clients to get repeat clients.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of the areas where I could probably learn and keep growing. We still struggle sometimes, like how are we going to reach out and get new clients? I can tell you from my experience, though, the things that always seem to work are first making sure that your relationships with past clients are always that they're having a great experience. I'd rather that the client have a good experience and feel like it was professional and that they got a top of the line product rather than I need my vision out there all the time. Yep. And then just touching base with those people a lot. And then same thing is touching base with like going and grabbing coffee with somebody, even if it's another person in the industry. Amazing how much that works. Like go ask somebody who's a photographer or a videographer or a producer and ask them just to take you, like you'd like to take them to lunch or something, catch up. It's amazing how often just catching up with somebody in the next month, hey, there's this referral from that person. Like it's amazing how often that works. I always say with our business, it's kind of top of mind. Whoever's top of mind is probably going to be the person who gets the work. So constantly be out there just like connecting with people, connecting with past clients, showcasing work, which we're not great at all. But I think it's because we're showcasing, we're connecting with our clients maybe behind the scenes and going out, grabbing coffee or having lunch with them, going to different outings and just being that person like, hey, we're still here. You're not going to cold sell somebody on video very often. They're going to realize they need video at some point, and you just want to be that first name they think of.
Yeah. So many of us have a treasure trove of clients and potential work in the pipeline just sitting there, but we don't reach out to our past clients enough to tap into that. So that's something that I highly recommend to all videographers. If you are struggling to get that next sale, or you just want to maybe get a bump in projects within the next 30 days, just reach out to your past clients. Reach out to your past clients, check in with them, and do it in a way where you're adding value. Like Steve said, ask them if they want to go out to coffee, buy them coffee, buy them lunch, or send them an email letting them know you're thinking of them, and send them a gift card to Starbucks. Something to provide value to them, to let them know that you're still thinking of them, and then that provides the opportunity for them to do business with you. People do business with people that they like, know, and trust. Yes, exactly. And if they're not thinking of you, then they're not going to do business with you. Nope. So you got to stay top of mind.
No, absolutely. And I think there's also the ability to upsell. And something I think we should improve on is like, hey, we've got these libraries of footage for clients. And it's like, yeah, the client had a mission for a specific video back when they hired us for that. But if you're really struggling and you're not finding work, go take that time, do a new edit, say, hey, here's like, I just want to show you, this is a 30-second social edit. You can start putting out. I can make you 4 more in the next week if you're interested. Those kind of things too. You can go get work on occasion from that. A lot of times, especially those middle-sized companies that might have a very small marketing department, small and medium-sized businesses where they're already stretched on everything they're trying to do and their budgets are very, very slim. Those are the kind of people who, like, if you can offer to take something off their plate or do something that's pretty much plug and play for them, they'll respond to that. And then once they're like, oh man, this guy did us a favor for that, or at least, look, he's already laid out everything, then they can, let's hire him again for some more stuff. And also it shows the larger scope of work you can do in the future.
Yeah.
So, hey, next time we have that project, let's not just work on this video. Let's also make sure we knock a few of those out for you as well.
That is such great advice. A lot of our clients, there are a project that you shoot for one client, you probably have at least one other client that could benefit from a similar video. Say you're making a series of testimonial videos from for one corporate client, and maybe you made a brand video for another corporate client. Well, both of those clients could probably benefit from the other type of video that you made. So let them know about that other type of video. Send them those videos. Say, hey, I was just thinking about you. Just finished this project, making these testimonial videos for so-and-so. Thought that you guys could really benefit from, having some testimonial videos for your guys' product or service as well. Let's jump on a call, chat through your guys' vision, yada, yada, yada. So don't be afraid to market products, videos that you shot for other businesses to some of your other clients, because odds are they could benefit from them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. So would love to hear if there's some tactical ways that you guys have found success in finding new clients. I know you mentioned reaching out to take people out to coffee, reaching out to ask people if they want to go to lunch. Do you typically connect with those people by just finding them, I don't know, out in the community, networking? How do you typically come in contact with them?
Yeah, it's not fancy, or I don't have a magic pill for it. It's just old school networking and talking to people in the community and friends, and kind of just slowly expanding that network. That's how we've done it. I'm not saying that's the best way to do it, but it's always been, hey, if I'm out there at my kid's soccer game and I'm talking to another parent and you just drop, this is something that I do. Oh, you're into that marketing department. Yeah, we should chat sometime. I meet people playing golf a lot. I love golf. So meeting some people, just other friends groups who I get to chat with. And next thing you know, oh, hey, I needed a video. I'm going to reach out to that guy I met playing golf with. That happens a lot. It's just within our community. I know that we bring in a lot of work too. Mikkel's really involved in his church, and we get some projects through just, hey, Mikkel, we know you have a video studio out there in Dublin. Like, we have this small project for my small business. Can you take care of it? I think it's just, that's our method, is just good old fashioned kind of networking.
Yep.
The people you know. I'm sure that we could supercharge that some way. We have dabbled in going into more industry groups, or like going to professional like chamber meetings. I don't know how successful that is. I've never seen it really work out great. We have had success. There's two models that I've seen a little bit of success with. One is sponsoring some different events, and then showcasing, either being allowed to showcase our work for it, or offering something for, like somebody wins a raffle, giving away a service for like an hour shoot or something for free for a branding session. That's really good because it brings a client in, and then they're very likely to hire you because now they know about you. The other thing that really worked for us, and I know this can't work for somebody starting out, but the studio itself, opening up a studio that was kind of a white label studio, the Sycamore Studio, letting different videographers and photographers come through, their clients are coming through as well. And honestly, we're not trying to steal people's clients, and that's never the case. It's more that like, hey, this person brought in this like a personal family photo shoot, right? And it just happens that the mom on that photo shoot is like the director of communications at some medium-sized business, or the owner of a business. And next thing you know, oh, yeah, you guys do this kind of stuff here too? Like, I got to reach out to you. So a lot of it is just finding any way to get yourself out there in the community and getting your name out there so people just even realize it's an option. And I think that we still have room to grow in that. But I mean, the amount of people who just, once they hear about us, if they discover you're there, like, hey, there's a great podcasting studio in your backyard in Dublin, all of a sudden those people just start coming, and they'll tell their friends, and you'll start getting those kind of second and tertiary connections. And that's how it's worked for me most of the time going through.
Yeah. Big thing that I'm hearing here, big takeaway, is putting yourself out there, putting yourself out in the community, connecting with other people. That's how you build those relationships. Once again, know, like, and trust. Once people know you, find out about you, you connect with them, get out in the community, get your face out there, and then you build a relationship with them. They start to build that connection with you, and then you get that like and trust. And from there, you start to, it sounds like, get a lot of projects just through that process. Yeah.
And then the trust part, it's so interesting. I feel like when you get experience, or you get to showcase when you get to showcase your experience to a client and show like where your value is coming from, then they're going to be hooked. I mean, that's where understanding the science and the art of filmmaking really elevates you and your value to clients. I mean, like, talking about knowing so much about how a story is created and asking the right questions of the client. When they're getting asked those questions by you of like, hey, how do you want this project to be done? Like, are we looking for there's a million questions. It gets into a whole separate topic. But if you ask those right questions, they're like, wow, this person is coming at this from a whole different perspective. They clearly know how to tell story at a different level. And that's why I need to bring in this person as an expert. You're not just a button pusher on a tripod. That's the big thing, right?
like
you need to have that skill set. Yeah. I don't just push buttons.
Yes.
But you're just not a tripod record pusher. Like, know the art and the skill of telling stories, and then showcase that when you're in front of your clients and help them make better videos and tell better stories. Don't just make photo montages. Like, actually get a result for them from your video by knowing the skill really well.
A couple things I want to touch on there. I want to talk a little bit about how you go through that process of asking those questions. What are those questions that you typically ask? What does that process look like for you tactically? Are you jumping on a phone call, Zoom call, meeting for coffee? Before we jump into that, I wanted to talk a little bit more. I want to get like really tactical here for people. I know it's theory's great, and I feel like sometimes we miss in the practical, okay, this is how I can go about doing this, and I want to provide as much advice for people as I can where they can really take action on it. So for somebody who's maybe hesitant on, okay, maybe I know somebody is a marketing director for a company, but maybe I meet them at a soccer match or something. I don't know how to go about having that conversation with them to let them know what I do, see maybe if I can help them in any way with their marketing. What does that look like for you? What's your process for, okay, you meet this person, now how do you go about having that conversation?
Yeah, I meet somebody and we're just having conversation. I don't go into life always trying to sell. It's not me as a person. But if I meet somebody and you're just chatting, hey, what do you do? Like, what are you up to this weekend? Or what are you up to this week? Or you say, oh man, this week's just been busy. Just got back from traveling to Wyoming for a shoot. Oh, what do you do? And you get into, just the cool aspect of your life. I think one thing that videographers and photographers and creatives in general have that they should use more to their advantage is you have a pretty interesting life. For most other people, right? Like, there's not many people who are like, well, I did spend a week down in the Caribbean doing the shoot. And it was like, no, most people are probably going 9 to 5, same office, and dealing with the same 10 meetings they have every day. So you get to kind of share those life experiences in a way that just like, hey, yeah, I'm do this thing. And, oh, well, yeah, the reason I was there is because I'm in the video. And I'll just start with that very informal connection of, yeah, I have this studio in Dublin. Oh, if you're in that business, you should come by sometime and take a look at it. Or like, they usually don't. 99% of the time, that first connection, nothing's going to come of it. But those people, if they're in your community, you'll probably see them again. And you just like, oh, you know what? We still need to get together on that thing. Let's maybe like Coffee Thursday. And so it's probably the second and third kind of contact point that starts to click. And you just kind of keep at it. You don't push. I don't want to be overly salesy, but you just want to try to create a friendship, right? A relationship, and just get the opportunity to showcase and like talk about what their needs are. What is it that they do? And it's amazing how often that kind of works out. Yeah.
I love what you said right there at the end. Ask them what they do. Talk about what they do. Get to know them. Really build the relationship.
Yeah.
If you could have two people, say one videographer is meeting a marketing director for a company, and he goes into it with a hard pitch of, oh, I found out you're a marketing director for a company. Guess what I do? I'm a videographer. Here are my services. Carries like a spreadsheet with him.
That's not going to work out well.
That's not going to work out well, right? I think we can all say that's probably not going to work out well. But you got the second videographer who focuses on fostering the relationship. And sure, they let them know what they do, but they ask them questions about their life. Lead with questions, get to know about them, get to know their needs, what they're looking for, and just about their life in general. And then on that second connection, that third time that you meet with them, maybe then they start to find that trust in you and then start, okay, maybe we could use their services. They're a likable person. They're trustworthy.
Yep. That's the way to do it. I think it's never a full sales pressure environment. It's just fostering relationships. So it's a two-way street. Because that's also how you're going to create the best content. It's how you're going to have the best relationship, to understand their needs and then share your perspective of how to get there. It's that trust that we talked about earlier, building that trust.
Yeah. Love it. One more item on this topic here before we kind of switch gears. There is another YouTube channel that I follow. I subscribe to. I follow. Oh man, I sound very out of touch with it. A YouTube channel that I subscribe to called Epic Light Media.
Oh yeah.
Have you seen them?
Yep.
Okay, they are awesome. Everyone, for anyone who has not checked out their stuff, they do incredible work. I just love watching their lighting tutorials. I will sit there and watch that like it's a Netflix TV show.
But do not like or subscribe to
Do not like or subscribe. You're a real, you're a real one. Yep, don't like or subscribe. I put that in my last YouTube video. I said, because I used one of their concepts for lighting, and I said, go check them out on YouTube. Don't like and subscribe. And then I was like, maybe I shouldn't say that, because anybody who hasn't actually seen them is going to be like, man, this guy's a jerk.
Okay.
Yes, so check them out. I highly recommend them. But one thing that, what's the name of it? Do you remember the name of, is it, what's his name? I should know.
I never remember. I just always know him as Epic Light Media people. So.
Yes, the lead guy for Epic Light Media. One thing he says, he has a video that talks about business, and he says, I'm paraphrasing here, probably going to butcher this quite a bit, but the idea is you are never going to earn a new client or get a new client sitting at your house by yourself doing nothing. And it's so true. You have to put yourself out there. True. And we're in a fortunate, great time in the world and history where we can put ourselves out there from a computer. We can be on social media marketing, which is great and can do an amazing job of getting you new business. But man, it's still so powerful just getting yourself physically out in the community and building those connections with people physically.
Yeah. I think that if you build some semblance of physical relationship with somebody, then some of those touch points we talked about, those second and third, they can start to almost happen virtually, because now they're seeing you. Oh yeah, I started to follow that person. Oh, there's that person in a reel or in my story or in my feed. There's that person showcasing a little bit more of their personality. Yep. And, I think a lot of us start to almost feel like you know somebody just from seeing some things they post on. If you're that kind of person who wants to be a little more open on the internet, social media, and showcasing your personality, I think that's a huge benefit to those touch points of and then the next time you see them in real life, right? Wow, that person already has seen you maybe 3 or 5 or a dozen times, and it gives them more things to potentially talk about. They'll feel like they maybe understand who you are a little bit more. It might not be the real case, but again, that's where I think as long as you start with those physical, let's start chatting or let's go get coffee one time. Those internet social media touch points just help reinforce it a lot of the times. They just get to put those little reminders in somebody's head. Oh yeah, I did mean to get coffee with you.
Yep, so. Could not agree more. It's a great way to stay top of mind for clients, past clients, potential clients. Yeah. So we'd love to dive more into, and also if there's anything that we talk about that you want us to dive into more detail on a future episode, would love to get to chat with Steve again in the future, as long as he's willing to have me, because I think he's has a wealth of knowledge, and fortunate to get to learn from him. If there's anything that we talk about that you want more detail on, want us to dive more in depth on next time, then shoot me. I honestly don't even know what the best way is for them to get in contact. Leave a comment. This will be on Spotify and YouTube. So on YouTube, leave a comment. On Spotify, I'll put something in the show notes where you can contact me and let me know what you'd like us to talk more about and dive into more detail on. So another thing, kind of reversing gears back to what we were talking about earlier, as far as the process goes for, let's say, okay, we've got somebody that we know is now interested in a brand video for their company. What does your process look like for getting to know more about what their vision is, what the end video should look like, what should be included in this video? What kind of questions do you ask typically, and what does your system look like for that?
Yeah, so it's our system is typically a meeting with Mikkel and myself. So I keep saying Mikkel. Mikkel is kind of our business development person here at the studio, also amazingly talented photographer, and can sometimes wear a hat as a director when needed. But it's typically a meeting with him, since he's typically the first person to talk with a client when they have that touch point. we'll schedule a meeting or phone call or in person, just hang out at the studio or their office between McKellen, myself, and the client, and we'll discuss, okay, what is it that you want to accomplish? And don't say you want to create a video. It's the video is just going to be a tool to get somebody to accomplish something, right? So what is that thing that you want the audience who watches a video, you think it's going to be a video, what do you want them to do? That way we understand, okay, what is the mission? Like, what are we trying to get a result from this video, right? How are we pushing to action or call to action for everybody who watches the video? Once we get them to answer that, then we say, okay, so what is the best technique and tool to get people there? Sometimes it is a brand video. Sometimes it's a bunch of social media posts. Sometimes it's a short documentary or a long documentary. But now we can start specifically putting the tool of the video and the purpose, that type of video, and figuring out, okay, how are we going to create the results they want to see? And that's where your experience comes in as a videographer or storyteller. Then it's, okay, who is your audience, right? So if your audience is a certain demographic, that also leads to what type of video you're going to show. It depends. It can tell you what kind of style or mood the video will have. So we start diving into those questions on who's your audience. We talk about how do we want to come across as an expert? Is it comedic? Is this a personal? Are we trying to pull for heartstrings? I mean, right now, our specialty has always been pull at heartstrings. Emotional storytelling, like short docs, have so much power to change people's behavior. I mean, relating to somebody else who's having the same either problems as you or wants the same results as you, that's how you connect with a person who you've never met before in the world. So we really try to get an idea of who that audience is and how to best tell the story to connect with a very specific audience. I would say I really think it's doing your client a disservice if you're just like, yeah, let's get into how the nitty gritties of let's just make a video. Mm-hmm. Because that's not, the video can be made a million ways. Yep. The art of filmmaking is just answering a million questions in a specific way to tell a specific story. And you have to be able to always have an answer for every one of those questions on why you're making the decision you are when you're filming something. And I think that's something I learned in architecture is I always was pushed. Architecture is another one of those very subjective fields where you're creating something that nobody's ever really seen, and it's from scratch in a lot of ways. So you have to be able to support the decisions you're making at every point. Like, why are you putting a door there? Why are we adjusting the layout this direction? Once you start to figure out how to ask the right questions and come up with an answer for all those, a creative process becomes a lot easier to defend. And that's what clients want to see. They want to see a purposeful video. They want to see that you're choosing things for a purpose and to get the results that they need to see. Yeah. So those are the questions we ask. It's a lot of like, hey, this is not just a video, which is just cool shots. This is a video with a purpose, which is also our email address. Video with purpose. It's a video with a purpose. So like, let's make sure we're making all the right decisions so we have the end results you want.
Yeah, you brought up a lot of great points right there. One thing that really stood out to me was being able to defend your answer. Video, like you said, it's very subjective. Yeah. It's creative. It's not like a math equation where you have, okay, this and this and this and this equals that. You're going to be making a lot of decisions that are just subjective decisions. And it's not about, is this the right decision or the wrong decision? It's about, can you defend that decision? Can you say, yes, this was the right decision because of these reasons?
Exactly.
So I know that's an area where I've come into some difficulty or some struggles in the past is like, okay, should I do this or do this? And then I need to remind myself, it's just about, okay, think critically through what do I think would be the best decision? Why is it? What's the reasoning behind that? Can I defend that? And then just move forward with that decision.
Yeah.
Because that can, analysis paralysis can hang you up all day long.
It's just for you to have the confidence to know that you should keep moving forward. Yep. Like, okay, I've thought about it. Let's move forward. If the client wants to critique it, you have a reason why you made the decision. And honestly, with creative things, 9 times out of 10, they just want to know you thought about it and there's a reason behind it. So.
Yes. Amen. The worst kind of action is inaction. So just continue to take action, know why you're making certain decisions, and then move forward with it.
Yep.
So those questions that you laid out there, is that pretty typical of what you're asking for each new project that comes in? Okay, client that's interested, hey, I want a video. Yeah. You're leading with those questions to take you down a certain path.
Yeah, so there is a difference. So that's for a very just like new client coming in. They have no idea other than they said they need a video. That's the typical path that we're going down. An agency path is a lot different. An agency path, which I would really push if you can start to get in with agencies, which I'm still struggling to figure out how to exactly do that. But if you get into that method, it's a lot more of they're handling the creative for a client, and they are now just looking for your services to execute that project. So that's a little different. When you're working with somebody who already has the creative done, you can still you should bring a lot of these questions forward to make sure that they've thought about it, and that's how you can work as a team to elevate the quality of the finished product. But they're now kind of hiring you more as like, you have the expertise in bringing this all together and producing it so it looks the way we want. We just have that creative vision of what it needs to kind of look like, who the audience is. Now let's make it look and actually produce a product that'll hit those goals.
Yeah. I have not worked with, I don't have a lot of experience working with agencies, some smaller ones on pretty small scale. I imagine that's something I kind of want to push for in the future. I imagine, I guess reason being, because I imagine that it's a lot less behind the scenes work or pre-production work. You're just executing. You're not having to come up with the strategy and everything as far as like the story, what it's going to look like.
It's honestly, it's more enjoyable because it's like anything. If you're a person who likes to be on like team sports, there's that thing about everybody bringing their specific skill set to elevate the team. That's how I feel it is on bigger commercial sets is you have an agency who's already gone through all of asking those questions and a creative director with their vision. And now you can bring your skill set in and you get to hear what somebody's already thought about, and you can provide ideas to maybe take that to a different level or, maybe make that idea a little bit better. But also just ask those questions so the whole product gets better. You might not have the right answers, but just I feel like bringing in specialists who are focusing on each thing, a creative director. I mean, the nice thing too about bigger projects is you usually have hair and makeup on set all the time. You have set stylists who are just making sure the sets and the props all make sense and are looking their best. It really allows you to do your single-handed job of like either making sure the picture is looking good and you're getting or if you're a director, right, you're getting the best performance on screen. You don't need to be worrying that like, oh, there's a hair that I missed out of place because somebody else is watching a screen who's focused on that. Yeah. So that is an advantage when you start to work on bigger commercial shoots. Having that team really uplifts the whole project. As long as it's a well-managed team and it's not getting in the way. It's just one of the perks of getting on bigger shoots. And the reason I see bigger shoots and the reason we sometimes push for bigger shoots with clients is we need to know that the stuff we're getting on tape that day is at its absolute best level. So that's why we're going to push for those things. There's also clients who come in, they say, hey, doesn't every second and every frame of that shot doesn't have to be pure perfection. We're looking for realism. We're looking for this thing. So they have different needs. And so some projects just need a smaller crew, right?
Gotcha.
But that's one of the advantages to working with agencies and bigger commercial shoots.
Yeah, I love that idea of potentially having more of a team atmosphere. I could see how it would elevate the entire project, and then also allow you to just like, focus in on your area of expertise.
Oh, it always does. It's amazing. Like once you experience it, you really want to have more and more shoots like that.
Yeah.
And then it becomes figuring out who you want to work with and who's on that team. That really makes you guys all lift each other up and make a better product.
Yeah.
So.
Awesome. Well, Steve, thank you so much for your time today. I have learned a ton. I hope that people have found this really valuable. Like I said, let me know if there's anything that you want us to dive into more detail on. Just let me know in the comments below, or if you're listening to this on Spotify or any Apple podcast, wherever else. I'll try to post it everywhere. There will be something in the description where you can let me know any more detail you'd like us to dive into. Steve, one last question for you. Well, two more questions here. One, final piece of advice that you would have to any aspiring videographers out there, someone who's maybe just getting started or struggling to really make a full-time career out of this.
I always think there's two things. One is just go start doing it. Don't think you have to get to a certain level or have special cameras. Just go out with your phone and find out what's the best product I can make with my phone that fits that niche, and do that to the best of your ability, and just go ask people to do it, like allow you to do that for them. Yep. The other thing is, as you develop, know your value, like know the value that you're bringing to a project for the client, and try to have an understanding of what that value is. It's hard because we don't get the numbers typically from clients, but try to figure that out of like, how much value is this video bringing to that client? And also you want to make sure that your video and your products bring value to a client. So focus on value going forward. That's how you'll be able to make a sustainable career from it, is knowing the value you're bringing with your skill set.
That's great advice. And that is a whole nother podcast episode right there that I would love to talk about, is how you go about finding the value that you've created for clients and how you use that to get new clients in the future. Yeah. So we will definitely have to touch on that another time. I know we talked before we set up the podcast here. Is there anything that you have that you'd like to provide to aspiring videographers? Like my book, for example, I'm going to let people know where they can download that. I don't know if you have anything like that.
I mean, just the studio. Like we have access for a lot if you're just getting started. The Sycamore Studio, we're definitely a very welcoming kind of studio. It's a place that's not supposed to be intimidating. If you've never shot in a studio, if you've never shot a huge 30-foot cyc wall before, we're here to help you figure it out, help you light it. It's already pre-lit for 90% of the stuff. So if you ever want to start podcasting, the reason we created this studio in the first place was to help people who are younger and less experienced start to get comfortable being in a studio situation, have access to all of the tools they could possibly need, and then grow their own business, and then be able to even go on to bigger studios, into Hollywood, but start somewhere, right? You have to learn lighting, you have to learn some of these basics, and it can be very, very overwhelming. We try to take all that away here at the studio. I
can personally attest to the fact that it is a very friendly, welcoming environment. This is not intimidating at all. And in addition, it is incredibly impressive. We'll have to do like a studio tour video or something.
Sometime we'll definitely do that.
Yeah, this place is amazing. You got the podcast studio that we're shooting in right here, and then you got this incredible cyc wall with then 3 other backdrops on the other side of it. So if you're local to the Columbus area, go check out the Sycamore Studio. This place is amazing, and you can really, anything you have for your creative needs, you can accomplish them here. So I'll link something in the description with that too, where you can get in contact with Steve and the team to come visit the studio.
Anytime.
So, thanks again, Steve.
Awesome.
This has been
awesome.
Thanks
for having me.
All right. Thanks so much for tuning in to today's episode. If you want to get a free copy of my book, Film to Freedom, to learn all the strategies and tactics that help me turn my videography business into a 6-figure income and full-time career, then go to videography-university.com/book or click the link in the show notes. Subscribe to the podcast for more episodes in the future, and I'll see you in the next one.